From the founding of Casa Melchers in 1846, the influence of the German community was imprinted forever on Maastland society. Coming from the city of Bremer, Germany, the Melchers family and Celso Fuken founded the first German business in Maastland, under the name of Melchers Hermanos and Company, which operated under this name until 1868, when it changed to Melchers Sus Soares. The company was located at Calle de Recreo No. 10, today Constitucion, in the commercial and financial center of the port at that time. The Germans developed an intense commercial, financial, mining and social activities since then, opening various banking, mining, and commercial houses, which were dedicated to the import of all kinds of European articles, and the export of precious metals from the Sierra Sinaloa. Later, they established the yarn and fabric factory La Bahia, insurers, and also exploited coffee farms in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. It was evident that the Germans came in search of fortune, and most found it. However, we must recognize his important contribution to the construction of the city, and his solidarity during the ravages of yellow fever in 1883, the bubonic plague in 1902, and the revolution in 1910. Their companies remained open during the revolution, and their economic presence was decisive in alleviating the difficult situation of the population, derived from the armed struggle. Their participation in the urban development of the city was equally important. They donated the Glorieta Germania and the Kiosco de la Plazuela Republica. They contributed to the civil hospital.
They promoted the construction of public welfare institutions, such as the orphanage, the nursing home, and the San Vicente and civil hospitals. They financed important road works, such as Clausen and Centenario roads. Roads that were the basis for the commercial and tourist development of the port. Casa Melchers and its extraordinary commercial and financial expansion was the watershed between a time of marked indifference towards the region, and the race towards progress and abundance, which turned Maastland into the commercial and financial center of the West, for more than a century. Behind this important German firm, others arrived, attracted by the news of the enormous mining wealth of Mexico. In 1848, the Hermanos Sus Soares House was established, which opened the famous German haberdashery, and which very soon came to be compared with the Melchers Consortium, which, faced with efficient competition, decided to absorb it in 1907. In 1908, the powerful German firm Wohler Barthing and Company arrived, distinguished by the important banking transactions it carried out. It was logical that the German influence was reflected in the Maastland society of that time. A society formed by a foreign legion, which brought together the same Turks, Chinese, Nicaraguans as French, Americans, Italians, Basques, Germans and of course, Mexicans. Nostalgic, like all globetrotters, the Germans yearned for two fundamental things: beer and their music.
In 1882, Mr. Jacobo Lang arrived at the port. A German who, from the age of 15, worked in the main breweries in Germany, and in the then suburbs of Puerto Viejo, established a small brewery that for about 16 years, supplied the entire state of Sinaloa and Durango, where well-known beers circulated in the United States, such as lager, porter, and ale. In 1879, Don Antonio Díaz de Leon, a cigar manufacturer, opened a modest brewery to meet the growing needs of the Germans, who considered it quite complicated to bring the drink from the old continent. Díaz de Leon beer was distributed until the first decade of the 19th century, and then it disappeared from the market, due to the strong penetration of Cerveza Pacifico. On April 20, 1897, engineer Alejandro Lube Guzmán and Ricardo Carrega joined forces to found Cervecería El León Company, which had a short life. Between the beer shipments from Europe, and the attempts to brew a quality domestic beer, the Germans brought in various musical instruments, which they taught to maneuver some of their local employees. The Sinaloense band emerged from those gatherings, refreshed with cold beer, whose origins are precisely in traditional German music. Until the end of the 19th century, the attempts to consolidate a beer industry in Mazatlan had been unsuccessful, mainly due to the low quality of the beer that was produced. Faced with this situation, some prosperous Germans met in the Melchers' private home to set up a company dedicated to making excellent quality beer, as good as any in Germany. For 120 years, this beer has been an icon in the history of Mazatlan. In 1900, when Mazatlan still did not have electricity, the first Pacific brewery opened, which today produces 15 million liters. The plant, which was founded in 1900, by exiled Germans who lived in this city, was sold in 1950, to Luis Fuentevilla, and was acquired by Grupo Modelo in 1954. The Pacific, from being regional, became national and international, filling the markets of the United States and Canada. It exports 5 of the brands, and has a presence in 160 countries. Has entered into commercial alliances, with which it imports brands such as Budweiser and Bud Light.